Crown Royal 18-year Extra Rare versus Crown Royal XR Blue, the previous edition. Who's the king of Crown Royal? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. Fist bump. Hey, my whiskey people. Mark here from Whiskey Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America, bringing you a 2-up of the finest Crown Royals that have been released in the last, let's say, well, 5 to 10 years. We have the brand spanking new Crown Royal 18-year XR, Extra Rare, and this is 40% ABV. I believe it's all from the local Gimli distillery here in Manitoba. So that is homemade. And we'll talk about the box in a minute. Then we have the former edition, now extinct, totally sold out everywhere, most likely. If you see one, grab it. And this is the Crown Royal XR Blue. This is the second edition. There was a red version before. Those now go for like, I don't know, like $1,000 on secondary. Crazy stuff. This likely also will follow that same path if you want to get it from an auction house or a private seller, etc., etc. Do remember, caveat emptor, buyer beware when you're buying from a person. Make sure it's someone you know. Another story there. Anyway, that's also 40% ABV. This contains distillate whiskey from the La Salle distillery, and it says so right on the box here. I don't want to read all of that, but so the old box, it distinctly says here, Crown Royal XR is a blah, blah, blah exquisite blend crafted with a small reserve of the final batch of whiskeys that were saved from the renowned La Salle distillery before it closed. And it talks about the La Salle distillery being surrounded by water and that perhaps it was the water source that made it so good. And it is a very, very nice Crown Royal, that's for sure. Okay, so that's the old one. Let's get rid of that box. And the new Crown Royal 18-year Extra Rare in a slightly more simple bottle. In fact, the bottle itself has lost about 10% of its total size. So that's kind of good. And we have a full-on cork, like a cork, whereas here we have a crystal stopper with a little bit of rubber. That's a better seal. However, I think everybody prefers the cork. So this says nothing about La Salle. That's why I believe it is all made here at Gimli. And judging by the taste, I had a little sip. In fact, I had a failed review. It was just way too long. Definitely has a different profile. We'll get into that very soon. And hey, if you're jumping in and checking out Whiskey Whistle for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to the channel right over here. Also click the bell, ding ding, so you're notified of future Whiskey Whistles. And if you're enjoying what I do, and if you like this video, then check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/Whiskey Whistle. You can get your name in the credits, which are coming up at the end of this video. You'll also get advanced viewing of future Whiskey Whistles, and also a Whiskey Whistle glass that looks like, do I have one here? No, I don't have one. Well, anyway, it looks like this, but says Whiskey Whistle. So, if that sounds great, then do check me out there. I hope to see you. All right, let's get these poured. First of all, Crown Royal 18 Extra Rare. Here we go. Nice healthy pour, about 30 milliliters. So a very, I think it is glass actually, so that's a nice cork. This one's a bit different. I'll just show this to you. Check it out. Are you ready? Are you ready? Whoa. So it's got an eyedropper style of cork, which is kind of cool. It just adds to the show, doesn't it? And the shape of the bottle is a little bit more opulent, and it is more difficult to open. So they've actually gone to the, what can I say? They've chosen the understated version of the bottle. It's probably less expensive to make, which is good. Here we go. About the same amount. And I think you've already noticed there's a color difference here. Okay, let's move those a little bit to the side. We'll get rid of that box. Kind of a neat box, the way it opens. Gilded inside. No Ralphie quote here. No flannel except on the back. And I urge you not to read the tasting notes so much. Check out reviewers like myself or Ralphie or Aquavite or No Nonsense Whiskey or Whiskey in the Six, Sippers Social Club, Trenny and C, Scotch for Dummies, Scotch Test Dummies, and Whiskey Wednesday, and Swedish Whiskey Girl, I think is her name. And we've got Mash and Drum. We've got so many reviewers that are putting out great content. And get this, I don't think I've told you this on camera yet, but Ralphie and Aquavite, they have put their minds together and come up with a new Whiskey Awards that is collaborative amongst all of the online creators this year, especially the YouTubers. But then the short list goes out to the public, to you, to pick Whiskey of the Year in a bunch of different categories. So oswa.co.uk, I believe, is the website. But you can check out Roy's channel. I'll put a link below for that, and also Ralphie's as well. Probably doesn't need a link, but I will put it in my description anyway. All right, so first of all, the color. Let's take a look at the color of these two whiskeys side by side. And you definitely see a light golden hue for the XR Blue. That's this one right over here. And then over here on my left, which is your right, you see the 18-year extra rare. And it's definitely darker, more of an amber, dark amber, almost maple syrupy kind of a hue. Let me just have a quick look myself. Yeah, definite change, definite difference in color there. And I think one of the reasons that I'm going to tell you about is the casking. So I think first of all, let's go through the Crown Royal 18-year extra rare. We're going to smell it together. We'll taste it. I'll try it with a little bit of water and then give it a WhiskyWhistle whiskey score. And then we'll move over into the XR Blue and follow the same pattern and see how that is together, okay? Okay, so should we check out the legs too? Let's have a quick look at the legs. All right, so side by side. Similar speed, but it looks to me like the XR Blue is a little bit more showy, a little bit thicker, a little bit more viscous looking. They're roughly about the same though. Okay, so the nose of the 18-year extra rare. 40% ABV, made here in Manitoba. First of all, you get a big waft of sweetness, some nice vanilla, a little bit of candied orange rind, some subtle baking spice. There's a little bit of dusty rye in the background there, but it's not really the main character in this whiskey. It's also a little bit rum-like. In fact, almost a spiced rum, not quite, somewhere between just your typical barrel-aged rum and a spiced rum, an amber rum that's naturally colored. Okay, so you don't have that extra sugar and color caramel in there, making it very bitter on the nose. So maybe more like a rum agricole / spiced rum agricole. There's also something very cognac-esque about this, brandy-like. We've got some subtle grapey notes here. And I have an idea about that. I haven't researched it, but I'll tell you about it anyway. Let's go ahead and taste that together. Cheers, folks. And if you've got your bottle, hopefully you're tasting along. I would love that. Cheers. Now for 40% ABV, This packs a lot of flavor. We have stepped up cinnamon here, vanilla as well. There's a little bit of sweetness on my lips. I think we have some very interesting casks going on here. And what I'm thinking are the Crown Royal XO, the used barrels. They formerly contained cognac. And I think we might have some of those in play here for 18 years in those barrels. There could also be some ex-rum barrels, which wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, a lot of first fill and second fill ex-sherry. Ex-bourbon. First fill, second fill, ex-bourbon. The first fill giving it that color, though we should assume this is colored with E150A spirit caramel color. The citrus comes through there, the candied orange rind. The finish is where you find the rye coming through. It's a bit dry, and yet you do have a lot of sweetness as well. So a sweet, dry finish with the vanilla, the candied orange rind, a little bit of that dusty rye coming through as it trails out to a pretty nicely long finish. Okay, let's add a little bit of water there. So my first crack at this review, boy, I spent 40 minutes with these two. And I just thought, I'm not going to edit that. It's going to take forever. I'm going to re-record it, get this to a respectable time, and get it out. Right? Right? Okay. So bear with me if I rush through a few parts. But trust me, I've tried it a couple of times. I'm enjoying it. And price to quality is pretty good. The 40% is a bit of a turnoff, but like I say, it actually does have a lot of flavor at 40%. So the nose with water added. You can get a little bit of waft of leather coming through. A little bit of coffee candy, which is quite nice here. And I'm enjoying that progression, adding a little bit of complexity to this nose. So Crown Royal, aged 18 years, extra rare with water, I think is the way to go. Let's see if the palate follows through. Cheers again. We have some of this coffee candy coming through. Some chocolate candy, like Tootsie Roll, or even hard candies that are chocolate flavored. The coffee candy, the orange rind is all working very nicely together. Very desserty, very sweet, very potent. This is very potent. Still reminding me of rum and cognac together here with the what I believe is the coffee rye that they make. And I think maybe with a little bit of their bourbon-esque their bourbon style whiskey that they make as well. One more sip. Maybe a tad drier than would be ideal. But again, that is the rye. That's the style in Canada. You always have that bit of a rye bite. And this really does bring it forward, which is great. So let's get on to the WhiskyWhistle Whiskey Score for Crown Royal 18 years extra rare. What is that going to be, folks? You know what it's going to be? It's going to be 85 out of 100. You heard it, 85 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Crown Royal 18 years extra rare. Deserves a high five. All right, good stuff. $180 plus tax, so basically $200 for this this bottle. And so the question is, okay, 85 points, is it worth the 200? If you're a Canadian whiskey lover, maybe. If you're a Crown Royal lover, absolutely. I think you'll enjoy that. If you liked hand-selected barrel, if you like the bourbon mash / blender's mash, the 13-year-old, I think you're going to like the 18. Okay, so we'll put that aside, and we're going to get into the Crown Royal XR Blue, and we'll see what that's like. Let's have a preliminary little bit of a nose here. A lot fruitier, a lot more orchard apple. And we still have some nice leather here. I don't really have the mocha or the coffee or the chocolate, but what I do have is something that's a lot fruitier. So we've got fresh apple. We also have some light orange, a little bit of orange blossom as well, and that touch of mintiness, a little bit of herbal from the rye. This is coming off as a little bit more softer rye, but more rye than the 18. And we have to look at the age of when La Salle Distillery closed, and that'll tell you about the minimum age that this would be. And I would have to assume that they probably didn't use any of the younger casks, because those would have already been used in older releases of Crown Royal. So it may have been some very old casks involved from La Salle Distillery in the making of this Crown Royal Blue XR. Yeah, little puffs of orange. And a little bit of canned pear, the syrup. So it's like a sweet syrup, pear-like flavor, smell. Kind of like pear compote. Okay, let's get into the palette for Crown Royal Blue XR. Subtler, more complex. There's much more going on here. It's a mix of fruit and herbal, a little bit of spice. We have candied ginger. We have the minty, herbal-esque notes coming from the rye content, which might only be about 30%. Very soft vanillas versus the very bold vanillas of the 18-year extra rare. And the finish is subtly astringent, sweet, herbal, spicy, fruity, and it carries very long, much longer than the 18-year. Okay, we'll add a little bit of water. Not too much. I think I need a little more than that. And what I noticed with this XR Blue is that it can take the water and it still stays very potent. So if you've got a bottle and you've opened it, try it with a little bit of water, a little bit of spring water, something like low mineral content. When you use higher mineral content, you're going to end up softening up the balance of your whiskey. So I prefer the lower mineral, or you can even try distilled water. Okay, so the nose now for the Crown Royal XR Blue with water. Pardon me. More leather, more dusty, more rye. And interestingly, more vanilla. So it really does seem to ramp up. Both of these do with water. And even though it's 40%, the water, I think, is ideal here. You really get a sense of the age. The leather, there's a little bit of old bookshelves, like old library smell. Very complex. It's like so many fruits that you just can't even compute what you've got there in your glass. Beautiful herbals, nice spice, a bit of nutmeg, some cardamom, that's it. Okay, the palate. Cheers again. Mm-hmm. It's singing in my mouth. Oh! Oh. That is a fantastic Canadian whiskey. Now there is this subtle roasted coffee coming through here with water on the XR Blue. In the finish, you really get that very mouth-watering rye bite, especially on the finish. And yet the finish is sweet, fruity, herbal, spicy, very well rounded. As a Canadian whiskey, as an older Canadian whiskey, as a Canadian whiskey that's bottled with Canadian whiskey of yesteryear, this is ideal. Now, the 18-year, but let me talk about that in a minute, but let's get on to the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Crown Royal XR Blue. First of all, I think you know what's coming. Oh, yeah, get over here. Oh, and a little Canadian whiskey kiss. It's pretty fantastic. And I think I didn't recognize its beauty 2 years ago when this came into my clutches. Actually, this was a bottle that was in the lineup for the Canadian Whiskey Experience 2 years ago that I put on a little mini festival here in Winnipeg. And it performed pretty well, but it was eclipsed by Shelter Point's Double Barrel. I think it was the 5th edition. Its ABV and its sweet cask style really shone that night. But I think for the experienced Canadian whiskey lover, traditional Canadian whiskey, I think that this would be the winner for sure. Super delicious. Oh boy. Well, okay, so the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Crown Royal XR Blue. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 93 out of 100. You heard it. 93 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Crown Royal XR Blue. All right, good job. Oh yeah, nice work, nice work. Excellent stuff. Oh yeah. And I've got a little bit left to enjoy or share. Now, what I was saying about the XR, extra rare 18-year, is that this is made for today's Canadian whiskey drinkers who like things a little bit sweeter. And it really follows the global changes in whiskey production. Make it sweeter, put in some interesting casks, and you'll notice they don't even mention those casks. And if they are in there, I think that they are, but they don't mention them because they might be second fill. but they still add that distinct rum slash cognac flavor in there. I hope I'm right here. I could be wrong, and if I am, I'd love to hear from somebody at Crown Royal about that. But it's really, really good, and I think 85 points. You know what? I gave less points to Macallan 18 for their 18-year-old from 2017. I think it was maybe 84 points. Scotch whiskey lovers will appreciate this one especially. Rum lovers, cognac lovers, obviously. So it certainly does have its place, and perhaps another reviewer, another critic will give this a higher score. But for me, this is just mind-blowingly good, and about as good as any whiskey I've ever had. Well, there's only one thing left to do here, right? Only one thing left to do. We're going to mix these together, have a little bit of fun, and now we've got a Crown Royal that nobody has ever had before. And I'm guessing this is going to be pretty fantastic too. It's bizarre. This is still dominating. You get a little bit of the uplift of casking from the 18-year, but overall, you can tell which one is the more forceful, powerful whiskey here, and that's this one. Just my thoughts. Anyway, hope you like that. Share your thoughts if you have any. If you've tried either of these or both, please leave a comment below. And share this video with your friends, with your Crown Royal lovers. I know there's a pile of them down in Texas. Anyway, take care, folks. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, check out the credits coming up. Check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/WhiskyWhistle. We'll see you for the next one, and take care.